Hi, earlier session we studied about how to define the solution scope. We have basically addressed that from practical perspective. Now let's little bit learn about the theory and also about how do we basically put that information into some template that can be presented to our stakeholders as well as to our sponsors for approval and approval for the scope and approval for the fundings. Okay, so the first part I'm going to basically take you know take you through this solution scope. Here, the solution scope is a next level activity. When the business analyst and the project manager will work together after the business need has defined and approved. Remember, we have done the business need document last week, and now we are talking about the business scope. That's the next level. The purpose of defining solution scope is basically to comprehend the volume and the nature of the work involved in the 5D solution building model. This I was trying to work, but I never completed this work actually. 5D model, okay, that is defining the solution, designing the solution, developing and deploying. There was one more D is missing, that is delineating basically. Okay, and this would basically help us out to understand the impact of the new solution on the existing business processes, functionalities, and the solution, and also understand what will be part of the delivered solution and what will not be part of the delivered solution. So it is a very clear cut boundary we need to create to understand what is a context and what is a scope boundary, so that everyone will have a clear picture about what is solution is about and what the solution capabilities and capacity will be. And also we need to understand the identify and address the existing challenges and capabilities to adapt the new solutions. So this is basically is all about your defining the scope. When we define the scope, we need 4 parameters. You can go through this book later on, but the primarily the solution scope is defined on the 4 major parameters. A, we have to talk about the features and functionalities. The B, we talk about the people who are involved and their role. Then the C, the processes that solution will handle, and then D, the database, what the data it and what kind of a database is required and how the data will be basically generated and stored and managed throughout its life cycle. So this is what we consider the 4 areas in order to basically define our solution scope. And for that, features and functionality, when we talk about that, we need to have basically, here it is mentioned, the business need document, which will talk about what is a problem and what is opportunity, so we know what is our goal. Okay, and then high level requirement, that is features or functionality, that is high level use case diagram will create. Additional inputs from the subject matter experts, that is the SMEs. And the again there's a process is missing, the process also we need to add. And then input and output data of the solution, that is a data modeling, high level data modeling. And nature of interaction with other solution, that is a scope diagram. So all these things we need to create in order to understand the solution scope. While we model the scope, we may have few options. You can create either the scope document or the scope model, and or you can create the context diagram or the data flow diagram. uh, Data modeling diagram is also okay. That is basically talk about your database related the scope, and high level use case talks about the scope related to features or functionalities, and user stories are main requirement. You can have either the high level use cases or you can have a user stories, no need to have both. Okay, and again the change management, it is mentioned how the changes will be handled, but right now we don't need to look into that. I'm going to go to the next level. What solution scope model must describe is that how people will interact with the solution and their role. Again, how means when you talk about the different stakeholders, and the users will have a different access level and different role they will play while interacting with the solution. What solution will do, what it will not do, that we talked about, high level functionalities and the processes. And then how the new system will interact with existing systems, so that is a context diagram. And the standards the new solution will have to follow, and the size of the solution, and what is in the scope, what is out of the scope. Another most important factor is basically business assumption and constraint. Both business and technical assumption and constraint is very important based on what we are considering as a scope. Okay, sometimes if the assumption is not true, then there could be a problem that might jeopardize the success of the solution. Then things to remember, the most important factor, initial, identify the initial stakeholder. This is very important, that if you connect with all the key stakeholders at initial stages, so at least you will have idea about what is their idea about the solution, what they consider as a success and what they consider as not success. Okay, so based on that you can again identify the stakeholders and manage their expectation. Avoid the scope creep, means you should not try to restrict your scope, otherwise you will, if the scope creep happens, then if you let the scope creep happen, then it will impact on your budget and the schedule, so that will be disastrous for the overall project. Self-confidence is important for you to convey to the stakeholder about the issues without getting emotional. Domain knowledge is very important for you to connect with the subject matter experts and hold the discussion confidently. Okay. Then it comes to the validation. Every document BA produces must be written, communicated and validated through formal process, signing process. That is important, so that everyone understands the requirement and they have a clear understanding before we move ahead. And communication is basically communicating to the right stakeholder at the right time. That is important, so that you create uh, the trustworthy environment among the stakeholders and avoid the conflict and the trouble. Here it is a context diagram you can create this way, scope diagram. If you see here, the presentation layer, application layer, database layer. So in terms of the online banking solution, we have mentioned user management, that is a password, login, session, all that. The statements, fund transfer, customer data request. So these are the basically services offered, and that is the users can see on their website. And here it is application layer, means behind the screen what the application server and the basically core banking servers will interact, and they will basically do the calculations, they will present the data, they will also handle some other requirement, business rules and all those things. Okay, then comes to your database is simply nothing but the collection of your tables, right? That's all your database. You can also have one more layer if you want. So this is how the different layers and the different way the scope can be described. Scope can also be described like this. One is here it is a diagram showing that customers interact either go visiting the branch or going online for the banking. Both the branch and the online banking connected with the core banking solution, and this one is also interacting with the RBI, this is a federal bank, for sending the reports or receiving the queries and again addressing the queries, right? And the core banking solution is also sending the SMS or the text messages to the customers for the secure transactions or some notifications as and when necessary. Then core banking solution also supports the back office who are providing the customer service executives, right? I mean customer service support. So they interact with the core banking solution. This is one way. You can have a different ways, and this is a high level use cases. So the use case here, if you see the customers, what kind of functionality they are doing. Login, for the login they use a password and a user ID to login. Then for the view personal details, they can basically also update the personal details if they want. Then they can, they're doing a fund transfer, they can do intrabank, interbank. So these are the high level features and functionalities. The back office person, he will generate the RBI file to send it to the RBI, upload the response file if there is a queries, and also generate the report for the management. This is the back office users. The system admin, he will do the backup and exceptional handling. So these are the three different the users, and their the functionalities mentioned, features and functionalities have been handling. Okay, so that is also one way of capturing your solution scope. Then comes to your the scope modeling. Another way you can basically present is, here it is a customer interacting is online, and these are the different the services been accessed by the customer. Again, customer is connected with the online banking solution. In turn, that is connected with your the systems, all the your core banking solution. You can also, the branch is also connected here, and basically they are also using the same online banking solution or the core banking solution directly. And again, federal bank, that is also interacting with the banking systems. Okay, you can also create a context diagram like this: customers interacting with the online banking solution for what? One is a login, transact, view, three different ways they are connecting, and it is sending the response. Okay, and it is online banking solution is also sending and receiving the request and updating the core banking solution. Online banking solution again here is connecting with the federal bank for data transfers as and when it is required. Any questions? Okay, this is one good blog is mentioned on the website, or it is, you can also read in the book also it is mentioned, validating the solution scope, because when you define the solution scope you need to validate. So that is basically a V diagram which is mentioned. Business acceptance testing, you must have seen the user acceptance testing, that we do it after the development happens, but this is a business acceptance testing is basically is done before you start the what we call solution. So that is basically you have to ensure that the stakeholder accept the solution, and that can be done against the business case. So you can map with the features, functionalities, and stakeholders expectations, and the again map that with the existing systems, existing capabilities, and define the scope accordingly. Because sometimes you may define a lot of things, but are we capable? That is of the part you need to discuss and answer. Now I'm going to talk about basically vision and solution document. We will not address this one. We will go to the next one, which is already completed. That we call it as an executive summary here. Okay, let me just start with that. Okay, this is a simple vision and business case. Okay, so this particular document you will be creating. Okay, and I'm going to basically talk about the high level um, these template, and also the information within the template under each section. uh, you are expected to basically use this template and the standards and create your own template. Okay, and you, this is in continuation with what you have done, defining the business need. Now you are elaborating that into the solution scope. If you see the executive summary, it is very nicely mentioned here about the global banking solutions, and here the background is provided why the banking solution is important. If you see, there is some research they have referred how the what we call here it is customer now prefer to operate their account, here it is, with banks providing a host of technology enabled facilities. 30% of banking transactions are now being completed online. Further, the massive adoption of the plastic money, that is debit, credit card, or other similar payment options, the digital payment growth rate is expected to be 40% in 2014. Moreover, the annual growth rate of the banks. So this is a what they have done is that whenever you present your case, you must refer to some authentic research paper which has been authentic and respectable research paper, and quote that. That is important. Like with that will help you to basically um, uh, uh, create a support for your hypothesis, because now when you uh, projecting some case or projecting some revenues growth or the success of the new project, so at the time you may have to assume uh, many things. So how do you assume them? So but if you have some the research papers, if you have some data that is already been published that you can refer, or some the internal research is done by your organization against the competitors, that can be used. So based on that information, it is been projected here in this table. Particulars: account opening right now is 4%. Proposed means estimated. It should be estimated actually, not proposed. So estimated should be 10%, right? Then number of transaction right now is 5%. In proposed, it estimated it will be 11%. Right now there is no expenses because there is no online banking solution, but it could be 10% additional expenses. Gross revenue right now is 6%. It is projected to be 8%. So you can basically create this, use this kind of a template and create your own business case. Now you can write down the in the mission what you try to achieve through this online banking solution. Okay, so here it is providing, right? Bank is committed to providing quality and user-friendly customer services to enable customers to experience banking with ease. In line with the vision, bank would like to capitalize on growing technology by providing seamless transaction and ease of banking. So these are the basically details were mentioned. This is what we want. This is what our mission is. Okay. Context diagram is provided. Now here it's a problem and opportunity statement which you have written in your business case, that you can bring it here and polish it little bit. Okay. An expected outcome, you can, based on the problems, you can mention the expected outcome. Like for example, productivity is expected to increase by 40%. The transaction cost is also expected to decrease by 70%. So and so forth. You can basically add some data, and that data can be based on various analysis that could be based on your discussion with the stakeholders, or some the market research data, or your discussion with the subject matter experts. So you'll have to basically collaborate and engage with all the stakeholders in order to come up with this kind of assumption and estimation. Okay, so this is the existing growth versus expected growth, right? So this is, you have to comparative the details you can provide. This is basically the paragraph. It is showing what is actual and what is estimated. So it shows clearly how it will contribute towards the growth. Okay, and how the growth will be faster than what you see. And here the information mentioned: new account opening, reduction in the branch operations, increase in the productivity, reduction in the transaction, all it is mentioned. Okay, this what we have calculated you can add here. Now you have to consider your own project, and you see what you need to, what will be the scope. And again you can also mention about how you will basically increase the growth, either by increasing the revenue or reducing the existing operation cost. So both can be added in order to project your the growth. Here it is a proposed solution, the phase wise. If you see login, transact, account view, request, and the phase 2 is a request. So this is what how we want to implement a solution, and this is basically talks about the high level solution scope. Now this is talking about the implementation plan: project charter, project plan, project kickoff, phase 1 completion, phase 2 completion, and closeout and project completion. So this is basically a high level plan, and the target date is mentioned. Then you see the project resources, who are the people and their responsibilities. This is high level stakeholder details, their role, responsibilities, their name and title. So this is the details we have captured in the vision document. Actually, there is much more information we need to capture that we will discuss when we will study the stakeholder engagement in the BA planning and monitoring session. Okay. Then we talk about the cost of the project, resource requirement, project cost. So a lot of information comes from the project manager, and this has been added. The project manager will talk one for 6 months, business analyst 2 for 3 months, subject matter expert 2 for 4.5, testing lead, testers, project lead and coders. Okay, so this is basically the resource requirement and 10 mentioned here. Then it comes to here as again project cost. It is mentioned here: hardware, software, licensed cost, and the project cost. So there, this is only technical part, and then you have to basically add the resource cost as well. Okay. Then comes to the return on investment. Without online banking solution, this is the return: first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. Okay, and under this second criteria, parameters, basically number of customers, number of transactions, gross revenue, expenses, profit before tax, and tax is 35%, profit after tax. Okay, then what are the assumptions we have mentioned here? Customer base is expected to grow 4%, transactions expected to go by 5%. This is again based on without online banking solution, this option. Now the next table talks about with online banking solution. If you see here that there is a difference, first year is 1, but here is it year fifth is number of customers 1.17, here it is 1.46. So there is a growth showing. If you see profit after tax is the fifth year is 11 million, I guess, and this is here it is profit after tax is 13. So this is what it is showing, and of course it is also calculated depreciation cost. What are the assumptions? Projected earning without online banking solution, this is earning, and under these are the categories. The categories we have kept it fixed, and then assumption, this is the assumptions what we have. Okay, and now projected earning when the online banking solution is implemented, this is what it is mentioned: customer base. What is a return on investment? This is what mentioned. First year there is no return, if you see. Second year 0.73, 0.65 under this one. Third year 1.40, 1.1. So this is under year 5. This is what it is mentioned. The moment it goes into the 0.7 means it is already break even is happened somewhere in the middle of the year, right? So this is what we talk. What is a discount rate? Net present value for above cash flow will be 3.77 million. Internal rate of return at 57% payback period will be 2 years. Okay, so this is the all we have captured in the solution scope document. You can call it solution scope and vision document, or the vision and business case document, that's fine. So this is how you need to present to get the approval, and these are the how approval you mention the name, the signature and the date. Okay, so this is what it is. Any questions you have now? I'm sure both of you must be having a book, but Kamyani does not have it, so it will be difficult for her to refer, but you will also receive your book soon. Question?
Even I haven't received my book yet, so I've got to query PP for like
Oh, okay.
practice now first.
So she must have sent you the template, right? I asked them to do that. Sometimes it is.
Yeah, I got the template. The 2 documents I got.
Sure. So let's basically talk about. So any queries you have about this one?
So we need to refer to that template, right, to complete
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
assignment which we got?
Yes, yes. So I would like to basically you all to start working on this one. So you will get about 10 minutes to finish the first part. Can you start writing the introduction part, like executive summary? If you can write like something like that. I'm going to keep this on so you can read and basically start working.